It is quite hard to discuss the economies of different African regions and forget to discuss the region of West Africa. West Africa is among the African regions which bring out a clear picture of where the African continent stands in terms of politics and economics. Massive transformations concerning security, foreign influence, political and economic evolutions are ongoing in this region. This is creating a situation of observing which countries are rising economically and those declining due to certain drawbacks they are continuously facing. Looking at West Africa, economically the starting point is none other than picking out the giant, going by the name Nigeria. Nigeria has managed to enjoy its strategic position of being among the economic giants of not only West Africa, but Africa at large. But we can't say that in West Africa, Nigeria is the only country we can only pick out, as we put focus on Nigeria and need to find out which other West African countries entering the economic race with it is also crucial. Countries mostly which are close in the race, for this case, Ghana, becomes interesting. But Ghana justifies the race. Our most interest comes with relating the two nations with another rising superstar. This rising nation being none other than Burkina Faso, which is under President Ibrahimtraore, is posing a number of questions concerning its economic future, due to the rapid transformation going on in this Sahel country of West Africa. Looking at Burkina Faso, one might wonder whether it can come so close to Nigeria and Ghana economically, one of the questions we need to find answers. Even before comparing them in a broader perspective, the starting point is looking at their GDPs, which is their gross domestic products. Nigeria on the African continent has a GDP of $252.738 billion US. That sounds great, right? With this GDP, Nigeria ranks fourth in Africa. Ghana with a GDP of $75.244 billion ranks 11th, whereas Burkina Faso with a GDP of $21.902 billion ranks 24th. These values may give an immediate answer that Nigeria is way far more than Burkina Faso economically, but that isn't totally true. As GDP or gross domestic product is the total market value of all final goods and services of a country expressed in dollars over a year, GDP is also considered as national income. Someone may ask, then what is the matter, as already Nigeria is showing some significant figures of billions of dollars compared to the rest? You shouldn't forget that Nigeria is also the most populous country on the African continent. This takes us back to its GDP. When calculating GDP as national income, an element of population is considered much. Nigeria has a very significant population of over 230.6 million people. This sounds quite huge. Dividing a country's gross domestic product, or GDP, by its population, which is an estimate of how much income the economy produces per person, per year, leads us to what is known as GDP per capita. In other words, GDP per capita is an estimate of standard of living. Nigeria, with its enormous population, has GDP per capita of $1,110. Ghana, with a population of over 34.4 million people, has a GDP per capita of $2,230. Burkina Faso, on the other hand, with a population of over 23.5 million people, has a GDP per capita of $910. What does this mean? Nigeria, even though seeming to be higher in terms of national income, its average standard of living per year is not even so higher than that of Burkina Faso. They are both almost in the same category. In this, you see that Ghana even has a quite higher average standard of living than Nigeria. Now that we have looked at the general economic performances of these three countries, we then shift to the broader perspective of these countries. As Africa is endowed with a variety of natural resources, West Africa is among the regions with these resources distributed almost throughout it. From oil, natural gas, to gold, among other minerals, West Africa is also known for being a major agricultural producer worldwide. Nigeria and Ghana are major producers of oil and gold, respectively, on the African continent. Mining in Nigeria has the potential to significantly contribute to the country's economic development. However, this precious sector faces numerous challenges and obstacles that have hindered its growth and potential. The latest figures on Nigeria's crude oil plus gas reserves were recently at the beginning of 2024, released by the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (NUPRC). According to the authority, the combined reserves of crude, oil, and condensate reached 37.50 billion barrels, while the reserves of associated gas and non-associated gas stood at 209.26 trillion cubic feet to cf. Within the total reserves, crude, oil, and condensate were recorded at 31.56 billion barrels and 5.94 billion barrels, respectively. The significant resources Nigeria possesses in terms of oil and gas reserves positions it as a key player in the global energy landscape, which is crucial for the country's energy policies, investment decisions, and overall economic planning. The mining industry in Nigeria is with no doubt long been dominated by the oil and gas sector, leaving other mineral resources largely untapped. Nigeria is also rich in mineral resources such as coal, limestone, tin, gold, and tantalite, among others. The sector has struggled with a complex regulatory framework and legal issues, including inconsistent policies, overlapping responsibilities between federal and state governments, and unclear land tenure systems have deterred investors and hindered the industry's growth. Many mining regions in Nigeria face security challenges, including illegal mining activities, community conflicts, plus armed banditry, leading to deterred investments and an unstable operating environment. Now that we have looked at Nigeria's darling sector, we can undoubtedly conclude that its potential of further economic growth and development can be achieved. One of major Africa's minerals is gold. West Africa is among African regions with abundant gold. As we have seen that Nigeria's mining sector rotates majorly around oil and natural gas for Ghana and Burkina Faso, their mining sectors majorly rotate around gold mining. Ghana holds its position as the largest gold producer in Africa, a title it has maintained for a couple of years. This Gold Coast from the colonial era has a robust gold industry, with major mining companies such as AngloGold Ashanti and Newmont leading production. Ghana was able to mine 4.03 million ounces of gold in 2023 due to a largely increased output from small-scale and artisanal miners. This production is growing steadily in 2024 and expected to continue growing due to a number of reasons. Ghana's goal of its first large-scale greenfield mine in more than a decade in November 2024, with an annual production of more than 350,000 ounces, is a major achievement concerning its gold sector. This Cardinal Namdini mine, owned by Cardinal Resources, a unit of Shandong Gold, adds to 3 other new mines, including a lithium project, with commissioning in 2026, hence a boost to Ghana's minerals production, quickening recovery from its worst economic crisis in a generation. With the gold mining sector generating over $7.6 billion in export income in 2023, with substantial reserves pivotal in stabilizing the currency, the recent discovery of huge lithium deposits, valued at $150 billion by the University of Mines and Technology Tarkwa in 2022, is attracting international interest. At the beginning of August 2024, Ghana opened its first commercial gold refinery, in which the state holds stakes of 20%. The Royal Ghana Gold Refinery, a public-private partnership between Rosy Royal Minerals of India and Ghana's central bank, has the capacity to process 400 kilograms of gold per day. Obtaining gold from small-scale and artisanal miners before acquiring licenses to process gold from large-scale miners, the refinery adds value and earns more from the precious metal, which has been mined in Ghana for centuries. Now, everyone wants to know how about Burkina Faso's mining is performing. Ever since President Ibrahimtraore came into power in 2024, Burkina Faso is undergoing massive transformations in its gold sector. The precious captain of this Sahel country of West Africa is working hard to come up with very organized and developed gold mining sector. Burkina Faso under President Ibrahimtraore suspended exports of the precious metal from by artisanal mining in a bid to better organize the sector at the beginning of 2024. Burkina Faso has 17 industrial gold mines, but 5 are closed due to a jihadist insurgency, consisting of a number of terrorist groups, which has left more than 17,000 civilians and soldiers dead, plus over 2 million people being displaced. The captain, due to his unwavering efforts, many of these terrorists have been chased away from certain regions having gold deposits. The mining sector of Burkina Faso accounts for 14.3% of state revenue, according to data from the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative (EITI). Burkina Faso being among the top 5 gold producers of Africa, President Ibrahimtraore knows that this sector has great potential to lift this Sahel country of West Africa to higher economic heights. At the end of 2023, in November, President Ibrahimtraore launched construction of the country's first refinery for gold, with a planned annual production capacity of 150 tons of 99.99% pure gold, that is about 400 kilos a day. Burkina Faso under the captain introduced a new royalty on gold sales, which takes into account gold prices above $1,500 per ounce, whereas previously it levied a flat 5% between $1,300 and $1,500 per ounce. President Ibrahimtraore wants the gold refinery to ensure the gold Burkina Faso produces is refined within the country, so that it benefits heavily from it than when it exported for refining. These gold mining reforms are putting Burkina Faso ahead of Nigeria and Ghana concerning major mining sectors of these countries. President Ibrahimtraore wants the gold sector of Burkina Faso to be almost entirely nationalized than when it has been majorly controlled by foreign investors, causing losses for the country, while majorly benefiting foreign European nations at the expense of suffering locals. President Ibrahimtraore and his cabinet are to introduce a number of innovations to the 2015 Mining Code, which was amended in July 2023. Among the innovations contained in the new Mining Code, the country wants to build up a gold reserve. Burkina Faso will ask mining companies to contribute to the constitution of the National Gold Reserve, and also the code takes into account the marketing of gold and other substances. The new mining code requires mining companies to open up their share capital to Burkina Faso investors and strengthen the power of officials to monitor and control mining activities. Also, the state's legal shareholding in the capital of mining companies for the granting of a license to operate a large or small mine has been increased from 10% to 15%. After knowing how the three countries are performing in terms of their major mining sectors, now one may ask, what is really on the ground concerning a number of developments and the way political matters are shaping these economies? As West Africa has long been one of African regions affected by insurgency, with a number of terrorist groups causing instability in different countries, a lot is ongoing in West Africa. Nigeria continues to be significantly impacted by terrorism and violent extremism, ranking as the 8th most impacted country globally according to the 2023 Global Terrorism Index. This adds to the threats posed by terrorist groups in the northeast. Conflicts between farmers and herders have further exacerbated instability and criminal activity in the Middle Belt north-central region, while emerging separatist groups have raised concerns in the south. Nigeria is actively putting into place the implementation of the policy framework to address the root causes of violent extremism. At the beginning of August 2024, protests erupted in multiple cities across Nigeria as frustrated citizens took to the streets, voicing their anger over increasing hunger and bad governance. Reasons for these protests are due to widespread unemployment and soaring inflation of 34%, the highest level in nearly 30 years. The reinstatement of a fuel subsidy, whose abrupt removal last May caused a dramatic spike in the cost of food, transportation, and other commodities, is one of the major issues affecting Nigerians. The country's worsening security problems, amid challenges including kidnappings for ransom, with these disruptions being on account of insecurity, which is manifesting in both banditry, kidnapping, and terrorism. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has faced a backlash over his government's spending plans despite the country's mounting debts and cost of living crisis. On the other hand, President Ibrahimtraore is continuing to score big in Burkina Faso. Since rising into power in September 2022, the captain is tackling the issue of insurgency intensively. Through entering into military agreements with various new allies, mainly those which aren't in good terms with Western powers, President Ibrahimtraore has managed and continuously obtaining powerful military equipment to fight various terrorist groups, which have long been causing insecurity in various regions of this Sahel country of West Africa. The captain has come out with a strong hand to push these extremists to the far end with assistance from Russia, Turkey, China, Iran among others. Burkina Faso under President Ibrahimtraore is breathing new life, not only concerning improved security, but also the economy is booming like never before. The captain is diversifying the industrial sector through launching of various mega factories throughout the country. The financial system of Burkina Faso is improving through the creation of the Treasury Deposit Bank to make sure that Burkina Faso attains economic governance. Even though the country ditched the West, mainly France, and decided to go for Russia and its friends, the country's economic environment and security are improving for good. On the other hand, Ghana is restructuring its $30 billion debt to recover from its economic crisis. Ghana's economic growth is now seen at 3.1% in 2024, above its previous forecast of 2.8%.